thing. Boom. Now, hi, this is drbeth.com, and you are live and being recorded for the Be Proud LGBTQ Forum. And what this is about is just making a difference for young teens and young adults that are feeling isolated, alone, and many are attempting to take their own lives. And this is my way to make a difference, to help bridge the gap, and to make it more comfortable for everybody to be themselves exactly as they are. And I brought my dad on this call tonight, and we were just having a conversation. He was talking about how I was a perfect child. Right, Dad?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not totally perfect, but at least until, but very close. That's right. And at least until I hit the teen years. And Dad, on a serious note, can you talk about what happened? What it was like to be a parent and be in total shock, and kind of what went down for you, so that I can give this same gift to other parents that might be going through similar issues?
Well, I guess it would start off with the fact that our family of four had a pretty, quote, normal, end quote, lifestyle, we thought. Whatever normal is. Who knows what that means? But we
Right.
thought we did. We were very religious. We went to church often. And my experience as a minister of education provided for me an opportunity to study the Bible. I was also very steeped in psychology and sociology, but I had never, ever, I can't figure out why, except this was in 1970-ish, something like that. I had never really studied anything to do with gays, homosexuality, lesbian, anything, nothing. And you would have thought that somewhere along the line that would have entered into the academic pursuit that I had. I had 4 earned degrees, and none of that really gave me any preparation.
So how to deal with a teenager.
Well, it gave me some work with teenagers. I studied quite a bit about dealing with adolescents, but not about gays, nothing. So when Beth, you announced at age 13, I think, that you had a girlfriend, we panicked. We probably did everything that parents should not do. We're a great example of what not to do. If you want a good book on it, I can write it. But in fact, what happened was we immediately went to a psychologist friend of mine, a fellow by the name of Burl West out of Middle Tennessee State University, and told him we needed help.
I think it was midnight. My recollection was I had some sort of something, and Mom had something to calm everybody down, and off to the psychologist we went at midnight.
That same day, probably. Do you think it was?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
We threw you in the car and tied you down and ran to the psychologist. So there we went. So we got to Burl's house, very noted fellow, and explained to him the circumstances. And Burl surprised the daylights out of me by saying he didn't think this was such a big deal. And I thought, well, maybe he didn't understand. Maybe he didn't know what he was talking about. Maybe. I wasn't sure what his deal was. But I do remember that he made that comment.
He was on my side.
He was clearly on your side. And so that didn't help me a lot. I just figured, well, we got to go somewhere else. So we started doing anything and everything we could think of doing. The worst thing we did, I think, was to punish Beth, trying to keep her away from her girlfriend at that time. And we did so by taking away her car, or what else did we do, Beth? I remember that one specifically.
Yeah, threatening my college education, taking my car, and all those things worked for 15 years, right?
Yeah, they really worked. They were so good. And especially when you went to Baylor University, and we thought, well, she's finally seen the light and things are better. And little do we know that your girlfriend sneaked up there with you. And so that that was discovered later, that, and we consequently found out that things were not working so good. The turning point for me, to kind of get onto the chase, I could make it sound worse, but it was bad as it was. The turning point for me was our minister in this Baptist church, a very smart guy who had done some biblical studies, and that was my hang up. I didn't have any hang up with rights of women, or doing your own thing, or be yourself, or whatever. I just had reason to believe biblically that it didn't make sense, and I was hung up there. That was the big nut to crack. And
And so let me interrupt you 1 second. Were
sure,
you afraid that I was going to go to hell? Were you afraid that you were going to go to hell? Like what biblically, what was the fear?
uh, it wasn't hell. I'm not real big on that one, but it was more a fear you might get stuck, you know. And I say that almost humorously, but that you were practicing this way of behaving, and I thought, and probably Barbara did too, that the more you did this, the more likelihood you're going to get stuck. And we were really so sad that you didn't have boyfriends. You were cute as could be, and we just thought, well, and guys hit on you. Guys were always wanting to date you, and you were not interested. Uh, so there, when we look back, we could see early on that this was not a weekend thing. But again, I think the big change for us was the studies, the biblical studies that we did. I went to seminary, Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. That's very liberal, and I would have thought, or you might have thought, or someone might have thought, that I would have studied this utilizing a historical, critical approach to studying scripture as opposed to being a literalist. But I, for some reason, blacked out on that one, and consequently, I didn't study it until I got help. I went to this minister and I said, I need some help. I can't figure this thing out. And he gave me some literature, read the scriptures in a different way, on and on and on. And I did some serious work on my part. Uh,
But let me stop you again.
yeah.
So let's say that it was biblically wrong. Let's say for those that believe it is and stay with that thought. What was the experience as a parent with a child? Was it a fear that what might happen to me if biblically I did something wrong?
Well, I think it was more not, I'm trying to think if it was fear. I think so many things are fear based, but yeah, I guess maybe it was a fear that you were not going to experience the fullness of life.
Did
Uh,
it have anything to do with how you would look as a parent? Like that you had failed your child?
I I don't remember that being the case. Probably did for Barbara, my wife, more so. But I don't think I was worried about failing. I just was disappointed for you.
You
And
were afraid I was going to miss out on things, or you were
yeah,
afraid you.
I Barbara's fear was you would never have a wedding, you'd never have babies, and period, end of story. And I think she wanted babies more than anything. But in my case, I just thought you know what you're doing, and I needed to help you some way.
Yeah.
And uh, and that you were going to miss out on life if you didn't get your act together pretty soon.
Right, right. Well, let me pause a second, and G or Alex, would either one of you guys like to ask a question or make a statement of kind of what it feels like to hear some of this?
Please do. If you have one, I would like
do you feel embarrassed or ashamed more than anything, more than thinking that she was gonna miss some stuff? Or your wife felt ashamed or embarrassed?
I think my wife felt some shame. What will other people think, kind of thing. I don't remember feeling that. I really can't say I've ever felt shame of Beth. I think it made me angry more than anything. I just wanted to say, get on the ball, quit this silliness, and let's get on about life. So
And Dad, it also seemed like you were more okay with it, but more worried that Mom wasn't. Like you were almost protecting. Is that my hallucination?
it's probably 50-50. Honestly, as much as anything, I wanted to do what the scriptures said to do. And, I was in church related work at that time, and I was very steeped in religious education. So, I couldn't disassociate what I was doing with what I believed about this issue. Having never studied it, my beliefs were not very well founded, to say the least. But I was working in an institution, the Southern Baptist Convention office, our headquarters, and I had colleagues who were being kicked out of the building because they were gay. And some really fine friends, some real top-notch people, very talented, highly capable people, and that's what happened. And so then when Beth announced her life concerns, I didn't know what to do. It affected my vocation, maybe, be another way to say. I wasn't afraid of being fired. I really wasn't. But I was more. I really wanted to do the right thing, and I was just having a real hard time coming to grips with the right thing. And I think it's too bad that there isn't more being said and done in the field of religion to deal with this, because it seems that so many people in the world today are allowing.
Looks like we froze. Can anybody else hear, or is the whole thing frozen?
Being done that helps people in this regard.
Shoot, it froze about 3 or 4 sentences back. Could you guys hear him? Okay, I'll have to go back and listen to the recording. G, how about you? Do you have any questions or thoughts? You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think for me, so I grew up Catholic, and I think I always knew I was gay. And as a kid, I found going to church to be a place of safety. So I found it safe to be in church as I struggled with trying to figure out what this meant, like, trying to deal with it on my own in silence.
Yeah.
And so there was a public library near our house. And as a kid, I would sneak into the psychology section and I'd read what gay meant, and it said it was a mental disorder. So I cracked myself up and laugh, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm crazy. Like, I know I'm crazy, but now now it's been validated. And I My mom had this little Virgin Mary out in the backyard, and my bedroom window faced, and so I would pray every night that she'd make it go away. And when I got to college, and I started seeing a psychologist, and he was like, like, you're just gay. That's it. And so what I went through, I struggled. My mom was really religious, really still is into the church, and I was confused. I didn't know if I struggled with how to come out to my family, but religion was all mixed in. There was this love-hate between me and my faith, where now I kind of felt, now that I was coming out, there was no room for me in my church, where I felt that was the place of safety. And so I felt completely betrayed by my church, where I felt like, oh my God, I don't fit this institution. And so, to have grown up praying and looking out the window and creating this narrative between me and this virgin out in our backyard, I went into severe depression, but I mostly felt betrayed. I was like, how did God turn his back on me? Like, I didn't ask for this. And now I'm burdened with, like, now that I should be happy because I'm coming out, now I lost my religion. So I felt like I had my religion and felt safe when I was in the closet. And then when I got out, I could keep going to church so long as I didn't tell anybody. And if I did tell somebody, then I was supposed to work on trying to make it go away and repent. And so when I finally did come out, my parents thought I was about to commit suicide because I was on antidepressants, and they confronted me. I wasn't thinking of suicide, but I was severely depressed. And my mom said, well, I'm not too worried about what the scripture has to say. I just know you're my son, and I know that God doesn't make mistakes. And so that felt comforting, but I was still confused, where I was like, wait, what does that mean? Do I no longer go to church? And so I to be honest with you, I still struggle with that question in terms of, like, what does that mean? Do I then switch faiths and find one that fits? Or where I used to, I'm institutionalized in the way I was raised, being Catholic. So it almost feels like, I was raised in that the institution and the teachings, you don't get to just switch them. And so, like, they're there and they permeate regardless of time. And so I still feel confused, where I'm like, even when I go to church, I feel like I'm wearing the scarlet letter, or somebody's going to say, hey, you don't belong here. Or, like, if they only knew you were gay. And then the people that do talk to me are like, well, the church's okay. They won't, you're safe, but, just don't talk about it, or, like, don't tell anybody. And I'm like, it feels like this love, hate, shame, all mixed. And so I struggle with faith.
I also
Sorry,
had the same.
That wasn't a question. That was a long speech, but just giving you
No.
my background.
Yeah.
It was perfect. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I also had the very similar experience, G. My life was church pretty much 24/7. My mom worked in the church. My dad worked in the church. We were in the church. Every time the doors were open, we were at the front of we were like head church people. And I got all my love and my connection to spirit and, all the songs that I loved that made me feel like I was coming to life, and like there really was a spiritual connection. And I felt for, 10 to 15 years, like I completely disconnected from God completely. And I had to come back in the back door and pretty much throw away everything I'd ever been taught and rebuild from the ground up. Like, who am I? What am I? What do I believe? Who is God? Is there a God? Would God create me this way? Because I, too, spent 15 years I actually went to analysis 4 days a week for 11 years. 4 days a week for 11 years. Thousands and thousands of therapy sessions, thousands and thousands of workshops, all trying to fix myself, because I too wanted to be a good girl. I wanted to do what was right in the world. I wanted to be a good person. And I just couldn't make sense for, why do I keep falling in love with a woman if this is so wicked and evil and disgusting and gross and, everything else. It makes your head spin, especially when you don't have a mentor or anybody that's, guiding you, which is one of the reasons that I'm wanting to have these conversations, because Christy, my cousin, my dad's oldest daughter, she hated me because I did not come out to her, and she was just furious. And I was scared to death that if I told her that I thought she might be gay or gave her any sort of leadership whatsoever or mentorship or, anything whatsoever, that her parents would think I had, contaminated her and done this to her. So it was sad for me. It was sad for her, sad for the families. And one of the reasons that I so desperately want to have this conversation for people. Joe, are you there? And would you like to jump in this conversation? I can't tell if you're frozen or not there. Okay, so Cleo, would you like to add anything to this conversation? Being the sister, and also one of my really good friends, how is it for you? You're muted. And you can pass. You get bonus points if you just say pass.
I'm gonna pass.
Okay, you got it. So, Alex, is there anything else you want to add? Go for it.
Yeah. I also struggle with religion and family background and society. Even though I was raised Catholic, and like you say, I went to Catholic school for every Saturday for 8 years and whatever. My mom became Christian when she came to the States, and that changed everything. Because when she was Catholic, she didn't really care about, gay or lesbian, whatever. But once she became Christian, and her sisters were Christians before her, so all the support that she gets is against gay. So her sisters, her mothers, my sisters, and that are also against gay. And my sisters have gay kids and gay grandkids. All of them have gay kids. And then the reason why I don't really talk to them no more is because I don't want them to blame me for, like you said, converting them into becoming gay. That they see me and that they're gonna think, oh, that's the way to be. And then knowing my family, like, I just don't want to deal with it in my life. But it is hard because you would think of society and you would think of your family and you would think that you're safe, but you really aren't safe. And I guess that's when you get isolated. And I think I'm complete.
Thanks. One of the things that I remember you and Mom being afraid of, and saying you were afraid I wouldn't have friends, and you were afraid I wouldn't be successful, and you were afraid, basically all of these things that I think all the parents are afraid of, because you're a very liberal, loving, educated, kind, brilliant man, until it came to your own daughter. And then it was like all bets were off, and I totally understand it. I completely get it. I'm not sure what can be done or said to another parent that is in the position that you were in, years and years ago.
Yeah. Well, I would say this. It's too bad that everybody on this call, other than me, appears to be in your 30s. I'm looking around the room, and you are the transition generation in this issue. My generation had no hope. I mean, everybody had been in the closet. I remember going to school in the largest high school in the nation at one time, and I can only remember one boy that was gay, and I remember how sad it was for him. And he was so talented. He was so capable. He was, oh my gosh, he was one of the smartest kids you'll ever know. But I remember that there was a kind of pity for him. And this is from loving people. This is from people who really would be normally loving. A lot of my friends are church friends, and we were taught to love your neighbor and love everybody, red and yellow, black and white, and on and on. And yet, that's the only boy I ever knew that even came close to coming out. Now, when I got into the Army after graduate school, I went to the Army for 3 years, and I looked like every turn I made, somebody was gay, or there was some family issue, or somebody was talking about it. And it was kind of like, well, where has all this been all my life? And I realized that I was talking mostly to younger people again. My generation's had it, I think. I don't believe there's a chance that my generation's they don't look at the Bible and say there might be another way to look at it. They don't look at society and say there's another option, or let's think about change. I'm in the world of change. I work with adults all the time, and I know how hard it is for adults to change. They can, but it's very, very challenging. I would say community is the best thing that can help anybody, either parents or family members or whatever. Get into a community. Because, back to what one of you said a while ago, I forget which one, talking about the power of the church. I'm going to make a statement, and you all can ignore it. It's worth what you paid for. I think religion is all made up. It's made by man. It's made by man. And some men put together all the ways of thinking, and they call it Catholicism. Some call it Protestantism. Some call it this or that and the other. I mean, it's man's best answer to understand who God is and where God is and what God is. If you study, really, as someone mentioned about going to the library, if you study, you'll find there is literature and there are noted people who are addressing this kind of endeavor today. Not in my time. But you people have to be the spokespeople. And Beth, I would applaud you for what you're doing here. I had no idea what this was all about until she took getting on the phone with her. And but I would applaud this. I think this is great. And the only other thing that would make it better would be to have some ministers who are more broad-based in their thinking, some Catholic priests, some Baptist, Presbyterian, Episcopalian, I mean, name it. There is one church today, other than the fact that every church, Baptist, Methodist, Catholic, all churches have a liberal strand. And if you look far enough in every community, you can find a church in your preferred denomination that is liberal. They're out there. In Nashville, it happens to be the one I go to, and it's only one. It's called Glendale. We used to call it Glendale Baptist Church, and now we just call it Glendale Church. But
because we got kicked out of the Southern Baptist Convention.
Oh yeah, kicked out of the Southern Baptist Convention. We thought that was kind of a badge of honor, but but the fact is, the non-denominational churches, the community
Unity Church,
are certainly way out ahead in the whole diversity issue. I mean, we're talking race, religion, creed, you name it. So that's where I found some like-mindedness in my own personal journey.
So I promised you guys I was going to do this for 30 minutes. So I'm going to just do one word around. If everybody would be willing to say, you know, just one takeaway that you got out of this call. Next Wednesday, I'm going to do this again at 7:00. I'm hoping that I can get my Aunt Margie and Uncle John. They were not able to make it tonight, but they are the head of PFLAG in Tennessee, and they work with parents in Tennessee. And when I was telling them about some of this, they're just shaking their head about how far it is to get some people to come. And some of the people that I've talked to are like, why do we even want to deal with this religion whatsoever? But I'm really trying to bridge the gap between religion, because it was so meaningful to me, just like it was for you, G, and also the parents who absolutely love and adore their children and are scared to death, and the kids that are trying to be good kids and not knowing what to do with themselves. So to find some way that we can create a safe haven there. So Cleo, what's your one word out? What's your takeaway?
Courage.
Thanks. G, what's your one word out?
Hope. There's hope.
Alex, I love it. I love it. Alex, what's your word?
Don't judge.
I like it. I like it. Dad, what's your one word?
Can I make a little statement? Okay.
Go for it. Break the rules.
First of all, I'm so honored to be on this. I had no idea what. My daughter tricks me into all kinds of things, but I'm so honored to be in your presence, the group. And if any of you would like to ever talk to somebody who did it totally wrong and is still working on doing it right, I would be more than it would honor me to talk with you about it, because I have heard Beth's pain. I know her pain, and I hurt for you if you are going through similar kinds of experiences. And anything I could do that would be helpful would be a pleasure for me. That's what I want to say.
Thanks, Dad. And
Thank
that's
you.
why I love my dad so much. He is the bomb, diggity bomb. And even when we were going through what we were going through all that time, this was the dad that I knew, and I couldn't make it make sense. And same thing for my mom. I always loved and adored my mom. I knew they always loved and adored me. I knew they were doing the best they could. I was doing the best I could, and we just couldn't find our way through the eye of the needle. Right. So just want to bless and thank each and every one of you guys for showing up. Dad, I love you to the moon and back. I'm so grateful that you're my dad and that you are willing to be a part of this and walk in this fire with me. Means the world, and it makes up for every single thing that ever happened.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Makes up for all of it. All right, I'm going to turn off the did you want to say something, Alex?
No.
Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording.